Happy Sunday, everyone. Beautiful Sydney Sunday. Just down at my spiritual home, my old spiritual home of Coogee. Just having a look there. Nice swim, the water's beautiful. Great temperature at the moment. We've had some big swell during the week along the coast, so it's settled down a bit. And great day to be outdoors on a Sunday. I just quickly wanted to touch base regarding the election, the upcoming election, and put a couple of videos on during the week. If you do like my videos, please share them, because we need to get out to many people. Need to get as much information as they can about the facts of what's really going on, not the propaganda and the rubbish and the BS that the politicians put out in their spin doctors through the media. So please, if you like what I say, and you can relate to what I'm saying, please share these videos as much as you can, and follow me as much as please follow me, and put it out there to as many people as we can. Look, I saw the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald today. Usual left spin doctor rubbish. Something like, young people coming back to Albanese in droves are going to vote for the Labor Party. Now, that could be true. But I'd say there'd be quite a lot of BS involved in that. But it's just usual spin doctoring by the left, manipulation. And I just thought to myself, these two major parties at the moment have basically given no more than last Sunday's barbecue leftover cabanossi to the Australian people. They're out there kicking footballs and kissing babies, and I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, and all that bullshit that goes on during an election campaign. But what have they really offered the Australian people? I put to the Australian people, they've offered nothing. And if they have offered something as a structural change, it comes with a massive question mark on it. There's no depth to it. It's just waffle. So anyway, the headlines are going out. I've put a couple of videos out in the last week, which a lot of you have seen. And I just wanted to comment today on, after a week of this campaign so far, the reality is, in my mind, is that with both these major parties, there's been nothing actual said about real structural change, real structural tax change, immigration change. Now, I just want to run through an example of that, to give you an example of the propaganda and the lies that are being told to the Australian people. The cost of living. Let's have a look at the cost of living crisis in this country. Take a person who wants to live in Sydney, say a young person. Here's usually a young person as an example, a person in their mid-20s, mid to late 20s. They've finished university, they've scored themselves a good job. Say they're on $100,000 a year. They're living in Sydney. Say they want to live, within the inner city, 5-10 k's of the, radius of the inner city to get down to the beaches, and they're young. They want to have a life. They want to go out like most of us did when we were young. Okay, let's just run through a few facts. On $100,000 a year, the tax on that, the income tax on that, straight away is $25,000. So immediately that brings your income down to $75,000, which is $1,500 a week, right? Okay, $1,500 a week, that's still good money. Let's factor in the direct taxes that the government charge, indirect and direct taxes that the government charge on that $100,000. Okay, at the moment, say in Sydney, if you're paying rent in Sydney, say you're sharing or you're renting a one-bedroom unit within the inner city radius, you're looking at, let's call it, say, $600 a week. $600 a week pays your rent. That's $30,000 a year. Now, 30% of that, it's over, in my opinion, 30% of that is overinflated through the government's immigration policies. They've brought over 1.5 million people into the country in the last 18 months to 2 years, which has forced the cost of living through the roof, especially on rental property. So in reality, the young person who's paying that $600 a week should only be paying about $400 a week. So take $200, there's $10,000 there, right? That's gone, basically, it's gone straight out the window through the government's immigration policies, current immigration policies. Add that to your $25,000 income tax, there's $35,000 already, which has gone straight out your wallet, okay? Now, people want to live, they want to go out, you know, they want to date, all that sort of stuff, as we all did. So let's take a figure of, say, alcohol beverage, right, per year. Let's say a young person on their own, and, you know, if they're taking someone out for dinner, spending money on grog, dates and all that sort of stuff, let's look at a figure of, say, $300 a week, which is about $15,000 a year. Out of that $15,000 a year they spend on alcohol, 50 to 60% excise is taxed. Is the tax on that on that amount of money. So let's round it off. Let's round it off to $8,000. So out of that $15,000, the average person's paying on alcohol per year, $8,000 of that goes straight to the government through the excise tax. Now, on top of that $15,000, you've got a GST tax. That's another $1,500. So let's round it off to $10,000 that a person pays straight to the government just on social usage on alcohol per annum. So I'll just clarify that again. Say your average spend per year is $15,000 a year on wine, beer, spirits, on your own, or, you know, going out on dates, mixing with people. Say it's 15 grand a year. 8,000 of that goes straight to the government. 8,000. Now another 1,500 on the 15,000, because we've got 10% GST, is another 1,500 that goes to the government. Let's round it off to $10,000. So you've got a $10,000 bill you're paying indirectly through the inflation, through the government, this current government's immigration policies, through your rent. So you should be paying $400, instead you're paying $600. That's an extra $200 a week, $10,000. You've already given them $25,000 income tax out of your $100. There's $35,000, plus another $10,000 on alcohol usage. Indirect taxes straight to the government on alcohol usage. So there's $45,000 straight out the back door of your earnings, that you've had no control over. So out of that $100,000 now, you're down to $55,000. $55,000. Let's take a look at insurances. Say your car insurance, general insurance, all that. Say you're paying a couple of grand on that a year. The government take between 30 to 40% of that, so let's be conservative. That's 30% there that goes straight to the government on the premium. So out of that $2,000 a year on insurances, you're paying $600. Okay, $600, $600 a year goes straight to the government out of that. And then you've got, for a young person, for example, a HECS fee. Young person out of university, the average HECS fee is about $2,500 a year on on a loan of about $70,000. On a bill of $70,000, they pay about $2,500 a year. So let's round that off to about $3,000. Let's throw in, so there's another 3, so that's getting up towards 50,000. To finish off, you've got the cost of electricity, which has gone through the roof. So let's say your average quarterly electricity bills between, let's be a bit conservative, say $500 per quarter. There's 2,000 a year. So the cost of inflation and the government's environmental policies, let's say that's another 30% inflated. So there's another $600 straight out the back door that you've paid through indirectly through government's environmental policies. So you've got direct income tax, you've got excise tax, which is like on alcohol, cigarettes, food and all that sort of stuff, which goes straight to the government. You've got GST, which is 10% on goods and services, which you just pay. And then you've got your inflated taxes through these absolute preposterous, scandalous environmental policies that the Labor Party have brought in the last 4 years, which have inflated the cost of living. So let's round it off to that near enough. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but to my mind, off the top of my head, that rounds it off. Total taxes out of that $100,000 to $50,000. $50,000. So out of that 100K, you've got, directly or indirectly, 50,000 of that going straight back to the government. 1,000 a week. Out of that 2,000 a week, you've got 1,000 a week going straight back to the government. Now, if that's not a mandate for Dutton, I don't understand this bloke Dutton. He's got me beat at the moment. I mean, honestly, whoever's advising Dutton at the moment is dead set, should be marched out of the office tomorrow. If that's not a mandate for him to come into the Australian people and say, look, we're going to cut excise by 80%, right? We'll shred it. We'll shred it by 75%. All alcohol tax will be shredded by 75%, right? If he did that, if he said we're going to cap immigration to just net zero immigration, so we'll still bring people into the country, but it's just going to be netted off against the people that have left the country or have passed away. All right, not this, bringing every Tom, Dick and Harry into the joint and flooding the joint and causing the inflation in the real estate market and the cost of living. So if you just did that, right, that would put, let's call it $20,000, $20,000 to $25,000 straight back into your pocket. So if you're on 100K, out of that 50,000 which they're robbing and thieving you of at the moment through direct and indirect taxes and GST, if there was real structural reform and a bloke and Dutton came out and said, look, this is insane, things have gone through the roof, this is what we're going to do, we're going to cut excise tax by 75%, we're going to cap immigration to what we call net immigration, so we'll net it off, so only people come in, the people that we've lost. Get that out. That would put about, with that structure there, that would eventually feed back into the economy and the people and put about $20,000 back in your pocket. That's $400 a week. $400 a week. Oh no, but he comes out, Dutton says, oh no, well look, we're going to look at this, we'll give you a little tax break here, like Albanese. He says all the crap in the world. We need real structural reform. That's why, as I said last week, I'll be voting for one of the Libertarian Freedom Parties, because we need, look, as I said last week, they're not going to win the election, they're not going to beat either the Liberals or the Labor Party. And as I said last week, whatever I do, the Labor Party, the Greens and the Teals will be last on my voting ballots, right? But if this bloke Dutton had any sense at all, if that's not a mandate to come to the Australian people and shred these radical left bozos of the Labor Party, fair dinkum, well, I don't know what is. But, you know, whoever's advising him is it's just beyond belief. So anyway, I just wanted to put that to the people that, and put a bit of facts into the equation to say, well, look, you know, $5 here, $10 here, it's rubbish. You're getting robbed. I've just gone through it. You're getting robbed on taxation, structural, you know, overinflated taxation. There's taxation everywhere, indirect taxation, excise taxation, direct taxation, GST. We're getting robbed everywhere. That's where we need structural reform. So I'll be voting for, I won't be voting for the Libs, I'm off them at the moment. I will be putting them before the Labor Party, of course, and the Teals and the Greens. But until they get their act together, and I think this bloke, but look, there's big question marks on this bloke's, Dutton's know-how and whether he's got it. Big question marks on him. I mean, there's stuff that sticks out like, you know, the proverbial dog's balls that he can go and absolutely slay Albanese on, and he says nothing, does nothing. So I'll be voting for one of the independent freedom parties, One Nation, the Trumpet of Patriots Party, Jared Rennick's party, Australia First, one of those freedom parties, because we really need a third major party in this country now. It's so important to hold these people to account. We need to get a lot more independence in the Senate to hold the balance of power for the future of our children and the future of our grandchildren, the future of the sovereignty of this country. It's just a nonsense. All these, and I'll just leave you with this. In my way of thinking, these two major parties at the moment, there is no way in the world they are governing for the people of Australia and our children's futures. They're governing for these overseas globalists, these overseas billionaires, you know, all these environmental vandals that just want to take over the world on this centralised control ideology, all coming out of the United Nations and the World Economic Forum, those NGO organisations. So, you know, we've got to get back. We need people to govern for us. We need leaders to govern for our sovereignty. We need leaders to govern for our children's and our grandchildren's futures. Not from, you know, for these globalist psychopaths that just think they've got the right to just shred our lives and tell us all what to do and make us all live in boxes. So I'll keep on making these videos because, you know, I just see what's going on, and I don't see. Tell me the last time you saw Albanese make a speech where you got out of your chair and went, you know what, yeah, that's our man, that's a statesman. Tell me the last time you saw Dutton make a speech or say something where you got out of your seat and gone, you know what, he's the guy for our future, he's our man, he's a statesman. Do you know? They wouldn't get hot. They would not get hot in a Class 2 race at Cessnock on Tuesday. They're absolutely pathetic. So we really need change, and it's got to start with, you know, voting, holding these two major parties to account. So anyway, just wanted to give you a little bit of background on that, and just put a bit of facts into the equation. So any young people thinking about voting for this bloke Albanese in the Labor Party, or the Greens and the Teals, just think, when you go to work tomorrow, on that example I gave you, if you're getting 100k a year, which is a pretty good income, 1,000 of that is going straight down to the toilet to the government. So when you're sitting at your desk tomorrow getting flogged, in one of the corporations getting 100k a year, every $1,000 you're earning, 500 is going straight back into the coffers of the government. God bless everyone. Until next time.